You are listening to episode 140 of the Autism Mom Coach, Staying in Your Own Lane. Welcome to the Autism Mom Coach podcast. I am your host, Lisa Candera. I am a lawyer, a life coach, and most importantly, I am the full-time single mother of a teenager with autism. In this podcast, I am going to share with you the tools and strategies you need so you can fight like hell for your child without burning out. Let's get to it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. I am so glad you're here, and I hope you're doing well. I am still feeling a bit under the weather, and my voice isn't back 100%, so this week's episode is going to be a short one, but it's going to be powerful. Today, we are diving into the final topic of the 4-week Stress Less Challenge, and that topic is staying in your own lane. This skill is one of the fastest ways to reduce your stress, and it's a concept that has had a huge impact on my life as an autism mom. So, when I say staying in your own lane, that simply means focusing on what you can control and letting go of the rest. And to do this, we first need to get very clear on what is it that I can actually control. Not what I try to control, but what's actually in my power to control. And that list is pretty short. We're able to control ourselves, we're able to control our own thoughts, our own feelings, and our own actions. All of that is completely under our control. Everything else, not so much. But of course, this gets complicated because we are also parents and parents of children with special needs. And so there are so many things about their lives that we do manage. But even with all of that, we can't control their emotions, their reactions, or their behaviors. We can only influence them. We can only support them. We can't control them. Despite how much we try or how much we tell ourselves that we should be able to for whatever reason. I hear this from my clients all of the time. His mother, I should be able to control this. I should be able to figure this out. And quite frankly, that's just not true. I mean, that's a fantasy, and it's a fantasy that is making most of us really miserable. And it's stressing us the heck out. And so when I think about what are the things that I do that if I didn't do them, I would be less stressed, and staying in my own lane is definitely one of them. And this has been a real challenge for me, and I see it in so many of my clients because we are our child's person. And so we are always crossing over into their lanes. We are their advocates, we are their voice, we are their interpreters. And while we do have a lot of involvement with our children, it still doesn't mean that we can control them or we can control their emotions. So to make this point, I want to share a story about staying in your own lane. This happened for me when I first was introduced to coaching, and I was introduced to this concept that there are facts in the world, and then there are thoughts about them, and our thoughts aren't necessarily true. I was first being introduced to the idea that I can only control my own emotions. I can't control somebody else's. This was all brand new to me. And this was at the time where my son had just learned to ski. And because he had learned to ski, I had learned enough to get up and down a bunny hill. I wasn't very good. But one day, it was just the two of us, and he really wanted to ski. And so we went up to the lift, we got to the top of the mountain, and there were 2 different trails that we could go down. And for the first couple of times, we both went down the same, easier trail. But after a few times, he got bored and he wanted to try the other trail, which he had done with his trainer. He felt pretty confident about it. He had a friend he could go with. And so he was going to go down the other trail while I went down, again, the easier trail. But these trails converge at some point and then proceed down the mountain to the base at the same time. So I am going down my trail, swoosh, 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 but I am not in my lane, right? Although I'm on my side of the mountain going down, my entire brain is with him. It's with what he's doing. Is he okay? What if he goes too fast? What if he veers off into the woods? Who is going to help him? That was all I could think about as I was going down this mountain. I was not in my lane. I was in his lane. So not surprisingly, seemingly to me out of nowhere, because I was really paying no attention to what I was doing. I was so focused on finding him, seeing if he was coming down, if he had gotten, to the convergence point faster than I did, if he was okay. Like I was just so focused on him that all of a sudden my skis went one way and my body went the other. And I'm on the ground, I'm in pain. And just sitting there right then and there, I knew exactly how it happened. And now technically, I'm not exactly sure what happened. My skis hit something and they stayed one way, I went the other way. But I knew in my mind, the reason that had happened is because I was not paying at all attention to what I was doing. I was so hyper focused on my son. I was so hyper-focused on what he was doing. I was so hyper-focused on things that I could not know or could not control. And as a result, I got hurt. So that's an actual real life 2 lanes example of me not being in the right lane and getting hurt. And that is an example of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about focusing on the things that aren't yours to focus on and not focusing on what is yours to focus on. And another example of staying in your own lane happens when you are trying to control your child's interactions with another human. This could be a friend, it could be a sibling, it could be a stranger, where you're trying to jump in, you're trying to interpret for them, and you're trying to smooth things over. And yes, and sometimes this can be a facilitative thing to do that can help your child with communication. But there's also that part of it where letting our kids figure things out for themselves. And I think that they lose a bit of that because of our own anxiety about how they will be perceived or misperceived. I know for me and for a couple of my clients who have children who are pretty high strung and very perseverative, that we work really hard to anticipate their anxieties, to explain them away, to give them an answer, to like close the loop on whatever they're worried about. And I did this all of the time with my son when he was younger. It was like topics from like broken glass on the street to whether or not we were wasting electricity. It spanned all sorts of topics, and I could never predict what it would be, but I was always at the ready to give him an answer so he would be satisfied. So in my mind, if he's satisfied, then he won't be anxious, and so then I get to be calm. So in that situation, instead of calming my own anxiety, right, staying in my own lane, I'm jumping into his and trying to control his anxiety. And this backfired on me big time when my son became a teenager, because as his anxiety grew, quite frankly, became very strange in the form of the types of OCD he was happening. There was literally not an answer I could ever give him that would close the loop for him. And he was so frustrated with me because he viewed me as a fixer. It was my job to help him to fix it, and I wasn't doing it. And he got really frustrated with me. I have the same thing with one of my clients, her teenage daughter, same thing. The daughter will tell her, "You are not helping me," because the daughter is used to mom jumping in and trying to rationalize, trying to walk her through all of the paces, give her lots of different options, and sit with her while she melts down. But when my client started to see, I can't control how she feels. No matter what I do, she is still having a hard time. She started to learn how to pull back and calm herself down so that if she were able to stay calm, she was less reactive to her daughter when her daughter was melting down. So the reason it is so stressful to try to control our children's emotions or their reactions and behaviors is because we can't. We literally can't do it, especially when it comes to emotions. In terms of behaviors, maybe there are times that we could actually prevent a behavior by holding a child down and things like that. But when it comes to emotions, the fuel for all of those behaviors, all of that anxiety, we cannot control that. And the more that we try to jump in and control that, what we're really doing is feeding this belief that our child can't handle their own emotions and that they need the help and that these emotions are too big and that they're too scary. And they're also reinforcing the idea that we are required in order for our children to cope. And as parents trying to teach coping skills and life skills to our children, this is exactly what we don't want to do. We want to be able to give them that independence to struggle through it themselves and come out on the other side. But in order for you to do this, you have to drop the idea that it is your job or that you're supposed to fix this for your child, because that's just not the case and it's not even possible. But when you don't jump in to fix it for your child and you stay in your own lane and you let them handle their disappointment, their frustration on their own, they then build the skill for doing that over and over again, even if they don't want to do it. I know for my son, when I started to create more boundaries around this, Ben, I know you're disappointed. I'm really sorry. I can't fix this for you. He was really pissed and he was really frustrated, but he got over it. The key for me was really relaxing my own anxiety and my own fear that if he didn't get over it, that he stayed upset, that this is what my whole night was going to look like, and all that catastrophizing. So the work here really is when you're staying in your own lane, it's not only allowing your child to have the experience and to muddle through it themselves, it's also supporting yourself so that you're able to stay calm and regulated as well. But the thing about this is the more you do it, the easier it gets. And the more you do it, the more energy you have because you're not expending your energy always trying to control things that you can't control. So give this a try, experiment with it. Where in the course of your day are you in somebody else's lane and where can you swerve back into your own? But when you try this, I don't want you to go cold turkey, like all of a sudden you're hands off and you're just staying in your own lane. That would be very disruptive to your child. So starting out slow, where are the little places in life where you could just stay in your own lane? For example, your child comes home from school and they pitch a fit and they go into their room and they're yelling and crying. But you know that after a few minutes, they calm down. Instead of going into the room to try to speed up that process, stay put. Stay put and focus on yourself. Or maybe it's time to go to bed and your child's frustrated that you're taking away the iPad or preferred activity, letting them cry it out and letting that be okay for you. Being able to let them have the emotions that they're having and you being able to stay calm and regulated so that you're not also getting escalated. And this way, you're letting them have the experience of processing their own emotion, their own disappointment, but without trying to fix it, without trying to jump in and make it better. You're just letting them feel however they feel. Because remember, as parents, our job isn't to make our children happy all the time. And I know that a lot of my clients struggle with their kids with autism because they feel like they already struggle so much, so they don't want to add more to their plate. But truly, the ability to learn how to regulate your own emotions and self-soothe is a life skill. And there is no better time than now to start to grow that skill. All right, that is it for this week's episode of the podcast. Now, if this is something that you struggle with, staying in your own lane, jumping in to fix things when your child's anxiety goes high, this is exactly what I help my clients with in my one-on-one coaching program. To learn more about working with me, schedule your consultation by going to my website, theautismmomcoach.com, or the episode notes. Once you schedule your consultation call with me, you and I will chat about what's going on, what you're struggling with, what your goals are, and I will give you a detailed, pinpointed plan about how I can help you. So go to my website, theautismmomcoach.com, or the episode notes and schedule your consultation call today. All right. Thanks again. Talk next week. Thanks for listening to the Autism Mom Coach. If you are ready to apply the principles you are learning in these episodes to your life, it is time to schedule a consultation call with me. Podcasts are great, but the ahas are fleeting. Real change comes from application and implementation, and this is exactly what we do in my one-on-one coaching program. To schedule your consultation, go to my website, theautismmomcoach.com, work with me, and take the first step to taking better care of yourself so that you can show up as the parent you want to be for your child with autism.